Hi again, everyone, and welcome. A few housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded and will be sent to your emails, so don't worry about taking notes viciously. We'll make sure that you get all the recordings. And if you have any questions, we encourage you to send any and all of them to the Q&A function using the bottom of your Zoom screen, and we welcome any questions that you might have. My name is Wendy Liu. I lead product marketing for Checker Trust. And in today's webinar, How Safety Screening Delivers Instant Risk Intelligence at Scale, we will talk about this new era of instant at-scale risk management via safety screening, and really how it differs from traditional background checks. We'll explore the key differences between the two solutions and showcase how you can strategically use each to enhance trust and ultimately protect your business. But before we get into all of that, why are we talking about this today? The lines between digital interactions and offline impact have become increasingly blurred. Whether you are renting a car online, hiring a caretaker to babysit your child, or going on a date with someone you met online, our everyday interactions have become more and more digitally facilitated. And while this digitalization has certainly brought more convenience and speed and sometimes connection, user safety is really non-negotiable. And you have to ask the question, do you know and trust the person that you are interacting with? Now, traditional background checks can be a great tool, but what if current screening methods are too slow and expensive? What if they are actually creating more friction for your users and making your business more vulnerable? And today we're going to explore kind of a smarter and faster way to protect both your business and your users. So for those who are unfamiliar with Checker Trust, we are an affiliated company of Checker, which you may be familiar with. Checker is one of the largest employment background check providers in the country. Checker Trust provides risk intelligence for non-employment use cases, and we're built on industry-leading criminal, identity, and driver data. We know that risk looks very different if you are a caregiving marketplace versus a financial institution or a sharing economy platform or an online dating platform, so on and so forth. So we give you the data and the tools to really identify the risks that matter to your business and automatically leverage the data in your workflows in a scalable and cost-effective way. Today, Checker Trust powers over 10 million screens per month across online marketplaces, physical security solutions, and businesses, and helping them protect their customers, drive more revenue, and scale with confidence. So we're going to quickly launch a poll, and I'm just curious to know, what is the biggest barrier for your business in implementing user screening or user verification? Some options we have on here: high cost, slow turnaround time, concerns about user friction, privacy and data requirements. This is not a test, just curious for our own education purposes. And while that poll is running, I'm going to go ahead and skip over to our next slide and get into the meat of today's presentation. What are the differences between a traditional background check and a safety screen? So let's first talk about background checks. What is a background check? A background check is a comprehensive, in-depth review of a person's history or their personal information. This can span from criminal histories, education, employment, and financial records as well, such as credit reports. They are often used when you are evaluating an individual for things like employment or tenancy, as well as credit underwriting. And these are really protected use cases. These are protected use cases that come with regulatory requirements, such as a dispute flow or providing a report to the individual themselves. Background checks often also require you to provide a social security number and will require you to collect explicit consent to run the background check. So if any of you have ever applied to live at an apartment, sometimes they'll have you do a tenancy screening where you're providing them consent to run your credit report as well as your criminal report. Or if you're in employment, making sure that you run your employer is running a background check on you prior to actually hiring you and having that be part of the process. And because these reports are comprehensive and extensive in nature, it really shouldn't be too much of a surprise that these reports can often take anywhere from 2 to 5 days to complete and can run you anywhere from $25 to over $150 per report. Just depends on how extensive and how many add-ons, if you want to run additional screenings, so on and so forth. So let's talk about safety screens as a comparison. Safety screening can deliver critical risk intelligence critical risk intelligence by providing criminal identity and other risk-related signals. It's a real-time review focused on identifying high-risk users at scale. Now, the data from safety screening can include identity verification, such as verifying the identity against an authoritative database or document verification. The criminal histories can include publicly available data, such as warrants, arrests, court records, as well as sex offender registries and global watch lists. And then driver information can include verifying active driver's licenses or running a motor vehicle report. And you can really mix and match these different solutions to make sure you're getting coverage in the areas of risk that matter to you. Obviously, driver information would only apply for a subsegment of people or businesses that have to do with vehicles. So you can really tailor the solution to match what you need and what you care about. Now, within criminal histories, we also allow you to configure different rule sets to filter for the charges that are most relevant to you and your business. Now, maybe you only care about felony convictions, or if you're a visitor management solution that serves schools, you probably care about most crimes that involve crimes against children, and maybe you care less about traffic infractions. So you can really configure all those variables within our solution, so you're only looking at the things that you care about and that make an impact to your business. Now, unlike background checks that have strict regulations when used in employment, tenancy, and credit, safety screens can be used in most other use cases, which involve just identifying high-risk users or individuals. For example, safety screens can be used to screen users on a dating platform, making sure that they don't have any, things like sexual assaults or things like stalking in their histories. You can screen visitors that are entering a school or building, or screen marketplace users for things like fraud, or things like embezzlement, cyber crimes, things of that nature. Safety screens can effectively help you reduce financial, reputational, as well as physical harm to your users. And because these use cases are outside of the protected use cases that I mentioned earlier, you're not required to collect explicit consent from your users. Although we typically recommend that it is covered under your terms of service. And speaking of the user experience, we know that businesses often collect minimal information on their users to really help the onboarding flow and reduce friction. So our solution actually allows you to leverage just a first name, last name, and date of birth to run and screen. Obviously, the more information that you have on an individual, the more likely we'll be able to pinpoint accurate results for you. But it is possible to just leverage a first name, last name, and date of birth. Another key difference is the speed of safety screens. We know that, for example, in visitor management solutions, we can't really afford to have visitors backed up into a lobby. We also know that in online marketplaces and businesses that run digitally, they care very deeply about the user experience and creating a frictionless experience. So our criminal screens return results in just under a second, and we can return identity and driver data in often less than 2 seconds. So this ultimately helps you onboard and process your users fast without compromising safety. So safety screens are really built for scale. We know how impractical it could be to even pay $10 per screen or $5 per screen, let alone $25 or $150. Because Checker Trust holds a proprietary database of over 2,400 sources, which is one of the largest criminal and public record databases in the US, we can offer safety screenings to our customers for often less than $2. And that rate actually decreases as your volume increases. So you can see how this really matters when you're dealing with high volume, dealing with scale, and really wanting to protect your larger use cases and your larger community. So let's talk about the benefit of safety screens. The first is, there you go, prevent bad actors from accessing your community. Even by just verifying that your user is in fact a real person, you can help reduce chances of fraud and harm occurring on your platform or to your business. Carefully, which is one of our customers, they are a community childcare platform. They use safety screens to make sure that their users and their families are safe members to engage with their children on their platform. And they've actually found that the safety screenings act as a huge deterrence mechanism. They screen their users before they have access to forums to interact with families with children. And it's a really easy way to make things a little bit harder for the bad actors who are trying to access your platform and services. Second is to protect vulnerable users such as children or the elderly, especially if your business involves vulnerable populations who may be at higher risk of physical or financial or harm. Running a safety screen to make sure that they don't have any charges against minors or elderly can be a really easy way to help protect these populations. We work with several visitor management systems who serve schools as well as pediatric healthcare facilities across the country. And with safety screens, they are able to screen not only sex offender registries, but also criminal databases to identify high-risk individuals with things like felony charges against minors, things that really wouldn't show up in any other public sex offender registry. Stay ahead of regulatory and risk and regulatory expectations. When I was at the Marketplace Risk Conference earlier this year, I heard multiple general counsels and legal leaders speak to this. The regulatory landscape is shifting at a really rapid pace. Where the federal government may loosen regulations, some states are coming in and placing additional regulations. Regulatory and societal expectations have shifted pretty extremely, and platforms are now expected to act not just as facilitators, but really as accountable actors. Ignoring or delaying a response is really no longer acceptable. Some of you may have seen some of the recent news around Roblox in the last few weeks. Now, Roblox is not a customer, but this is just a prime example of how states and consumers are holding companies accountable for the environment that they create, even if it is facilitated online. Drive growth through trust and safety. In a similar perspective, brands are being held to higher standards. Consumers are increasingly wary about how trusted and safe a platform or business is. And if you lose your customers, or if your customers lose trust and confidence in your business, the recovery is a long, costly process, and success is not always guaranteed. One of our customers operates a large peer-to-peer property rental platform, and they actually use us to run screenings against both the property hosts as well as the guests. And this gives both parties peace of mind that the homes are vetted, property owners know that their houses won't get damaged, guests know that the homes that they're staying in are safe homes to stay in, and this overall increases participation in that platform. And lastly, reduce time and money spent on risk response, investigations, and litigations. Safety screenings can give you critical information and to really understand who your customers are and use that data and risk signals to define your risk mitigation strategy. So not only can you use the information to prevent harm, but you can also use it to use the screening information to react, to understand what happened, and use that to iterate on your risk mitigation strategies and prevent harm from happening again. One of our customers is one of the largest peer-to-peer vehicle rental marketplaces in the US. And they had a truly unfortunate case earlier in this year where some of the vehicles were rented from their platform to commit acts of terrorism. The renters were screened through Checker Trust as well as the customer's proprietary risk solution. And there was nothing to be found in their criminal histories to predict the terrible crimes that they committed. And unfortunately, the reality is that there is no silver bullet that can prevent 100% of harm from happening. But because this customer had our information as well as several others, they were able to work with law enforcement and investigators to show exactly what they knew about the perpetrators. And even as a marketer, they had a class act response to this incident that reassured both their customers as well as the general population. So here is a quick side-by-side comparison of the key differences between background checks and safety screenings. So background checks offer comprehensive insights, ideal for regulated use cases such as employment and tenancy. Safety screens, on the other hand, can provide real-time risk assessment, making them highly suitable for platforms that have a large use case where user friction really matters. Key differentiators include regulatory compliance, consent requirements, and most notably, speed and cost. Safety screenings are nearly instantaneous and significantly more cost-effective than traditional background checks. So we're going to head into the Q&A segment shortly. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A function. And building on everything that we've discussed today, I just want to tell you a little bit more about Checker Trust. Give me one moment. There's noise coming in from outside. Okay. Checker Trust, you're not just getting another screening service, you're actually getting a solution that provides instant access to the information you need to identify and mitigate risks. We've built this platform for modern businesses like yours where speed and a frictionless user experience are critical. So Checker Trust delivers instant access to reliable data. Our platform pulls from over 2,400 trusted criminal data sources, many of them with proprietary data access points, giving you the coverage of more than 99% of the US population. This means that you get the insights that you need in seconds. We have powerful filtering tools. We know that you don't want to sift through irrelevant data. Our tool lets you easily filter and focus on the most relevant information, which helps your trust and safety and risk teams make fast, confident decisions. Seamless integration, our flexible APIs are designed to fit right into your existing workflows, whether it's during onboarding, at check-in, or wherever else you need it. It also allows for automation, so you can set it and let it run in the background. And alternatively, or in conjunction, we also have a dashboard experience where you can run individual checks or bulk checks, and it populates it with the same details, just more, it's easier to get started, and you don't need as much of an integration to get started. And finally, we offer a low friction experience for your users. We only require minimum data, like the name and date of birth, to get started. And this really helps preserve the user privacy and, most importantly, helps your onboarding experience be smooth and fast. And ultimately, Checker Trust helps you transform your approach to user safety, allowing you to screen users efficiently, identify risks early, and create a safer platform, all without adding friction. All right, so we're going to open it up to Q&A. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Does Checker Trust integrate with Teamtailor or other ATSs? So because Checker Trust is not an employment solution, we do not integrate with ATSs in particular. That's more on the Checker side. The answer there. Okay. I'm gonna leave it open for another minute or so for additional questions. Does Checker Trust check against OFAC lists? We do. So that's part of our criminal and public record checks. Our solution does comply with ITAR as well as OFAC requirements. And if you have specific sources that you're trying to check against, we're happy to follow up with you directly to get you the sources and that information as well. It is also compliant with any like KYC, know your customer type of regulations as well. So especially if you are in the financial space, we are able to uh, identify and comply with customer identification policies as well. Okay. All right. I will go ahead and give everyone some time to talk. If you are interested in learning more about leveraging criminal data or any of our other risk mitigation solutions, we'd love to connect. Please click yes on the poll, and our team will follow up with you with more information. And with all of that, I hope you all have a great rest of your week. Have a good one.